Hey there, Ryan Reynolds here. It's a new year, and you know what that means. No, not the diet. Resolutions. A way for us all to try and do a little bit better than we did last year. And my resolution, unlike big wireless, is to not be a raging and raise the price of wireless on you every chance I get. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 upfront payment required, equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes on unlimited. See mintmobile.com for details.
It's the start of a new year, and a lot is going on in our city and also across our state. For example, what can we expect from our new city government and mayor? Or how might we be affected by the incoming Trump administration? And also, just like, what do we have to look forward to this year? So today on CityCast Portland, our producers, John Notarianni and Giulia Fiaoni, are joining me to give you a preview of what 2025 might have in store for us. It's Friday, January 3rd. I'm Claudia Meza, and this is what Portland's talking about. John, Giulia, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Welcome to 2025.
Happy New Year.
Thank you for joining me. Are you ready for a big old pile of speculation?
Yeah, let's say a bunch of things that we could be proven wrong about.
My favorite.
Yeah. Well, before we jump in, I just wanted to ask you guys briefly, what each of you were looking forward to this year.
I'm looking forward to exploring more of Oregon. I don't think I've had the opportunity to really go out into the southern coast area, and I'm planning on doing that. So that's one thing I have on my bucket list I'm hoping to do.
Boy, do I have an episode for you.
I know.
What about you, John?
I mean, this is kind of wonky and I apologize for it, but I do feel like last year was already such a look-ahead year. Mm-hmm. We spent all year thinking about the election, which is going to come into effect this year. So I'm just really excited to see all of these things that we've been talking about forever start to finally come into fruition.
Oh, yeah.
You mean live in the present, John?
I'm just going to live in the present, man.
Dang, guy, that's so zen. I'm looking forward to making my home cozier and ready for summer hosting you guys.
Oh my gosh. Are we going to have a party at your house, Claudia?
I think so. I famously don't ever have anyone over.
Yeah, I've never been to your house.
I've been to your porch multiple times, but I've never been invited inside.
Yeah, I'm always like, all right, get out of here. Well, it's happening, guys.
Oh, can't wait.
Yeah. Giulia, do you want to kick us off?
Yeah, so looking into this crystal ball, I also just dove into some reporting by OPB, Willamette Week, and the Oregonian. They're all talking about our new mayor, Keith Wilson's plan for Portland's homelessness crisis. For folks who are like, who the hell is Keith Wilson? A little background on him. He's actually the first Portland mayor in 40 years who has no background in politics. Before this, he was running a local multi-million-dollar trucking company that prioritized cutting emissions. Lifelong Oregonian, grew up in North Portland, and he actually had an older brother that was in and out of homelessness. So he has a very personal look into our social services, which is kind of what motivated him to really tackle this issue. So getting into his plan, from the start, he's always talked about ending unsheltered homelessness by the end of 2025. And I'm just going to define that real quick so folks don't get confused. Unsheltered homelessness is anyone who is living outside of a building, whether that's a tent or a car or just on the street. And this may actually sound familiar. Previous Mayor Ted Wheeler promised he would do the same thing in 2019, and our homelessness population has tripled since then. But Wilson's still confident that his plan is going to work because he's spent years already learning about other cities' approaches to successfully addressing unsheltered homelessness. And right now, his focus is on the fact that Portland doesn't have a lot of temporary night shelters because over the last decade, local governments decided to shift that funding away to more robust 24/7 shelters instead. But he thinks that this is a missing piece, and he's giving himself 90 days for this nighttime shelter plan to be up and running. And he will eventually add 2,000 nighttime shelter beds by December 2025. And his hope is to do this by converting spaces in churches, community centers, and vacant commercial buildings into these temporary spaces for folks to stay overnight. And he's mentioned that there will actually be a difference in the types of shelters people can access. Some where you have to be sober to actually go in and stay the night, places where you can actually use drugs on site. But the staff in all of the different sites will be trained on how to address mental health crises. But before I get into the cost and some criticism he's received and some of the things that he's already doing right now, what do you guys think of his plan so far?
I just think it's pretty interesting to be momentarily in like a space of hope and possibility, you know? I mean, he has spent 2 days in his office at this point. So like obviously not a lot has been done, but after, several years of just Portland feeling like a broken slog where nothing is happening, I do feel this momentum of like, I don't know, maybe he can do it. Maybe this will work. And like that buoyancy is, it feels really good. I haven't felt that way about Portland for a while.
Totally.
Yeah. I like that he came in hot.
Yeah.
He's like
he was
fire.
He's been working, since the moment that he learned he was going to become our new mayor. I feel like he's just been in the scenes, already moving stuff along, which is wonderful.
It is really encouraging. So I want to get into a little bit of the cost. He thinks it's going to cost an additional $25 million for the first year on top of what the city already spends on homelessness services. And what's interesting is that he's already had 2 people privately offer to pay that $25 million to fund the project entirely.
Oh, really?
Didn't mention who.
John, is it you?
With all of my podcast
I thought it was
riches.
John too.
I thought John.
So if he does want to use taxpayer money from the city and county's Joint Office of Homeless Services, he'll probably have to get approval from both the city and the county in order to access it. But he's already said many times that he's determined to find a way to make this happen, even if he has to work around other elected officials. But he is optimistic that council members will be on board, even though he has actually received some criticism already from current city and county workers and experts on homelessness that his plan is a little bit too ambitious and that $25 million probably won't be enough. So theoretically, the council could ignore his plan, but Wilson's also pointed out that he may not even need council support to put his idea into place because Portland already has an anti-camping law, and his shelter proposal could be considered part of responsibly enforcing that law. Although he's specifically already noted when it comes to the camping ban, he doesn't want police to start enforcing the law until there are at least 50 empty beds available on average per night. So he's not rushing to enforce that law. It's not like the thing he's leaning on to make this happen, but he's aware that it is a tool for him to advocate for his plan. So taking a look at what he's already doing is proving his campaign to be in motion, which is cool to see. Last month in December, the city of Portland and Multnomah County announced plans to open 200 new emergency winter shelter beds within the first 2 months of 2025, in addition to already existing beds and any emergency shelters that may open up due to the weather. And this is all supported by $375,000 from both the city and the county to make this happen. As of December, they didn't know what locations and operating hours would look like, but this seems to be the main priority, and things seem to be moving pretty quickly. A lot of the conversations between previous Mayor Ted Wheeler and Mayor Wilson were prioritizing this first move stepping into the new year. So I'm really curious to see if they'll be able to pull it off. Do you guys want to take bets? Do you think it's going to happen on time?
No, I don't think it's going to happen on time. I don't think so either. I love the ambition of the plan, but no, we've been fighting this forever. Like, maybe Keith Wilson is a magician, and I do think that we can make progress on it. But all of this happening, I would be shocked.
You mean by deadline? It's so funny, John, because I was like, "Ooh, are we gonna ape all this?" But you seem very firm on the no, so I don't think we have to.
It's funny too. I didn't realize how much he was doing while he was still in the process of being elected. I know you guys both remember right before Commissioner Renee Gonzalez and Commissioner Mingus Mapps actually left City Hall, they tried to get the city removed out of the Joint Office of Homeless Services and cancel that contract. And it was Keith Wilson that called them up when he saw that he was about to win the election and said, "Hey, please drop this proposal. I want to continue working on this relationship." Mm-hmm. And literally the next day, they pulled out and said, "Never mind, just kidding."
That's why they did it.
Yeah.
Wow.
He made that call. And of course, there's probably other outside influences, but he's been really driving forward on this. So at the very least, I am curious to see where this goes. I think this could be good. Dare I say it? Dare I say it, this could work out, and this may be the beginning of something really good for our city.
Well, thank you, Julia, for looking into that. Let's take a quick break here, and when we return, John looked into how our state might bump heads with the incoming Trump administration.
It's going to be a fun one.
Well, John, how screwed are we?
Oh, it's going to be fine. Don't worry.
Okay, great. Cool.
No. I mean, looking into this is actually pretty interesting because, of course, anybody who's like had their head anywhere near the news knows that there's a lot to be concerned about. But there's actually a lot that's already happening behind the scenes. A lot of leaders are putting plans into place. So it's not as doom and gloom as you might have already thought. So, like, here's some of the things that our state leaders are doing sort of in anticipation of the Trump administration that's going to be kicking off on the 20th of this month. So last month, Governor Kotek got a bunch of Oregon statewide officials together and sort of started sketching out what they're referring to as like Oregon values that could be under threat during the Trump administration. So, I mean, the incoming Secretary of State and Attorney General and Treasurer and like the House Speaker and Senate President, all these people have already been meeting, sort of being like, all right, like, how are we going to swing this as a state? And Governor Kotek put a $2 million line item into the state budget just for the Department of Justice to respond to whatever federal actions could be coming. They're just like setting aside $2 million for like, whatever comes down, we'll be ready to field it. And most interestingly, Attorney General-elect Dan Rayfield, towards the end of last month, announced a new federal oversight and accountability cabinet. So what that means is they got a bunch of like advocacy groups and unions and like all these other organizations that represent people who might be affected to sort of create a direct line to the AG's office. So if something comes up, they can be like, hey, how do we field this? What do we do about this?
That's smart. That's really smart.
So it's groups like Planned Parenthood, Basic Rights Oregon, the ACLU, like all of these organizations that really are able to see what's happening on a community level. The AG is getting ready to be like, we're going to talk. We're going to be like in really close communication. So that's sort of like the big picture. Are you guys more or less terrified?
It feels a little better to hear that there will be other voices at the table, that group of community members that have an expertise in all of those core issues feels really good to me. I had no idea that was going on. I wonder how much of a say they'll have, but I'm glad that they'll at least have a seat at the table from the start, you know?
Yeah. And something else that's interesting, they're also including a few legal scholars, you know, like constitutional law professors, so they can weigh in and be like, is this something you can even do, like according to the laws of America? So I think that those folks could have a pretty big voice as well over the next couple months.
Totally.
All I'm hearing is that they're preparing for a storm, and I think that's smart.
Yeah.
But can I tell you, like, my weird, like, so dumb. But I just feel like Gavin Newsom is so petty that like nothing's going to happen to the West Coast. But that's just wishful thinking.
Yeah.
I'm like, Papa Newsom will take care of something so stupid.
Well, I think an interesting way to sort of look at this of both like the ways that Oregon is like really kicking ass and ready, and also the ways that Oregon is uniquely vulnerable might be to look at two main issues. So maybe like let's talk about what could happen on immigration and what could happen on reproductive health, right? So let's talk about immigration. Oregon actually has really good sanctuary laws in place. And like we were one of the first, if not the first state in the country to put these in place back in the 80s. And the idea is to sort of prevent the feds coming in and interfering in immigration issues in our state. And we went another step and made them even stronger back in 2021 during the first Trump administration. So we've got these laws on the books. And recently, Oregon leaders have gone even further to sort of create a structure to help people take advantage of them. So the outgoing Attorney General, Ellen Rosenblum, put out a toolkit in December to help immigrants in Oregon know about their rights and be able to protect themselves. These sort of toolkits are online. They are in a bunch of different languages. And the idea is that if heaven forbid, the Trump administration goes through with this crazy deportation strategy, there's going to be a way for people in Oregon to know about the rights that they do have.
Yeah.
So that's sort of the good news there.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty good because we need immigrant labor.
Yeah.
I mean, we're dependent on immigrant labor.
Yeah, we already
Yeah.
are. I mean, the estimates is that there's 108,000 undocumented residents in the state. And a lot of those people are the people that are like doing work that is very, very important to all of our lives.
Mm-hmm. I do wonder, though, even if the resources are accessible and people are aware of them, if the need will outdo the amount of help that's available because of the sheer scale of what could be. That's my only concern with this, is that there isn't additional resources. It's the same ones we've always had, and people are just more aware of them. But will everybody be able to get helped?
Yeah.
Who knows?
Is it enough, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And like, I think the other worry is, we have seen the Trump administration be sort of freewheeling with withholding funds from organizations. And there is concern in several sectors that states that have these sanctuary laws could face, the withholding of federal dollars, right? That like there could be some sort of clinching of the money that we are due as citizens. So that is concerning.
That sounds like his style. So what about reproduction rights?
Reproductive health also, we've got really good preparations in place. Again, Oregon has been sort of forward thinking and looking at some of the issues that could happen. Obviously, a big concern is like the access to abortion care in the state as well as in the rest of the country. Well, Governor Kotek in November announced that the state had secured a supply of mifepristone, which is the FDA-approved medication used for abortion. They have a stockpile of it that is going to last through September of 2028. So like on that front, we should be set. Like medications are used for 70% of abortions in Oregon. So like heaven forbid something crazy comes down and there's an attempt at a federal ban, we should be okay in Oregon. And there are currently efforts in place to put a state ballot initiative out in 2026 to enshrine protections for gender-affirming care, abortions, and IVF procedures in the state constitution. This is something that New York State has done, and activists are already sort of working on this behind the scenes as well. So, I mean, in both cases, it seems like a little bit scary, but like also good things are happening behind the scenes.
Yeah. That's so cool.
Yeah.
I also, the thought of stockpiling medical supplies, though, is a little...
It's a little dystopian, but it's also good call.
I mean, we could probably need that, yeah.
Yeah. And I'll also say one of the things that came up when I was reading about Mayor Keith Wilson was that one of his priorities was to get the city to secure federal grants and other funding before Trump takes office. So this stuff's happening on the city level, too, to try to make sure that we just don't have to deal with it as much as we may once he's in office.
Yeah.
Well, John, I don't want to say it, but I'm a little less worried. I don't know. A little less worried.
Damn.
Yeah.
Well, let's take a quick break here. And when we come back, maybe some good news.
All right.
We'll see.
Hey.
Yeah. Well, I somehow got the very pleasant task of sharing some Portland good news for us to look forward to this year. But, I can't just give you the good without also opining on what could go wrong. I couldn't bring shame to my immigrant mother. So immediately, Oregon is probably on track for population growth. I say probably because we don't have the full picture. What we do have is last month, Mike Rogaway from the Oregonian digged into the data and he found that thousands more people were exchanging out-of-state driver's license for, Oregon ones beginning last summer, and that the pace of arrivals is hitting its fastest rate in years. So it's expected to increase in 2025, which economists generally see as a good sign because, immigration leads to economic growth. But here's the rein. We don't have firm numbers on how many people are leaving the state. Like, I guess that's something we don't know until, they're gone, or I don't know. And even with all this new blood coming in, we still have the same housing shortage. So, I know it's getting better, but we could hit a wall if we grow too much too fast, once again,
Oh, yeah.
wonder if there's any state in the country that is like more ambivalent about new people coming here. I feel like Oregon is always like, yay, new people, but not you. But like, oh no, there's too many new people, but we need new people.
I know. Oh my God. I've actually thought about this, and I just feel like our biggest hobby is being annoyed. You know what I mean? Like our hobby is to find things to be outraged, offended, or annoyed by. And I feel like that is our like, we just have this like little Larry David heart, you know?
It's our civic pastime, yeah.
I know. And I don't know, but yet so pleasant. I don't understand it. Okay. The other piece of good news is we're back on lists, baby. And not just, not just for best restaurants or most unsheltered homelessness. Last month, 2 big travel sites listed us on their worldwide picks, the whole world, for the top 50 places to visit in 2025. Travel Lemming ranked us like smack dab in the middle at 25, sandwiched between cities in Fiji and the Philippines, which I was like, okay.
Whoa.
I know.
I want to figure out who's planning that vacation. Should I go to Fiji or Portland?
What if they're in Fiji, you know?
Oh, they're in Fiji, and
they're just like, oh, Portland, how exotic.
and they're like, screw
Portland.
this.
Yeah. If you thought that was just a little much of like, you know, I don't know, an ego boost, here we go. Travel and Leisure's list wasn't ranked, but they went more alphabetically. So we were between Marrakesh and Rome.
Wow.
Rome!
This reminds me of when our Hey Portland newsletter writer talked about how the Central East Side neighborhood Kearns was listed as one of the top neighborhoods in the world, also next to places like Rome.
One of the coolest neighborhoods in the world.
Yeah,
True.
yeah. And they're
It was
like
cool.
Stockholm and Kearns. Okay. Well, reasons they gave us all those points to, you know, why people should come here were things that we've talked about on this show, which I thought was really sweet. Like, you know, our 250 plus public parks, our proximity to all the iconic nature destinations that have also made worldwide lists like the Gorge and Cannon Beach, our amazing food scene, as well as our cutie pie independent shops that actually don't get enough love, really. You know, I think we do take them for granted. We're just like, yeah, but you know, whenever you have friends come and visit, they're always so like excited about our business districts. Like, oh my God, you know, because each one feels a little different, you know?
Yeah.
So what's bad in all this since tourism means more money for local businesses? Well, you guys, Travel Lemon called us quirky. And Travel and Leisure also listed Sacramento. So I don't know, guys, not feeling that special anymore.
No.
Like, who's just like, you should go to Marrakesh and Rome and Sacramento and Portland. Like, I'm just at a certain point, I'm like, somebody was smoking something. And like, I don't know, man. All right. The other thing Portland should be looking forward to in 2025 and beyond really is how much more stuff we're going to be able to do. Like the Doug Fir is slated to open back up in their new location this summer. If you don't remember, they're moving into the space that the old Le Bistro Montage used to be in, you know, which is kind of bittersweet.
Are they still going to do the swans? Are they still doing the foil?
The tin
at the Doug
hats?
Fir?
I know,
Are they
I
taking
don't
that
know.
on?
They didn't mention that in their press release,
Okay.
but I think they should.
I think
yeah.
so.
Yeah. Also, the James Beard Public Market is supposed to open this fall.
Yeah.
So a project that's been in the works for 10 years now. It's going in the Portland's Selling Building downtown. If you don't have a visual for that, because I sure didn't, it's a block up from Pioneer Courthouse. And that's going to be 38,000 plus square feet of retail spaces, restaurants, and culinary education. So just in time for all the tourists who are coming to visit us after they visit Rome and Sacramento, you know?
Perfect.
Also, you know, big future projects are looking solid. Like our future Portland WNBA team that doesn't have a name or any players already reached nearly $200,000 in revenue from ticket deposits ahead of their 2026
that's so
season.
Oh my gosh.
Cool.
That's awesome.
What? Like, that's just a glimmer of the kind of support they're
Yeah.
about to get, which is, I don't know. I mean, it made me feel hopeful, you know?
Yeah, those games are going to be rowdy. That's going to be so much fun.
Yes. And finally, our MLB team dreams have yet to be dashed.
Home runs into the river. Yeah.
I cannot wait. It looks like we're in the running for an expansion team still. The Zidell Yards is still the preferred location for the new stadium. And more importantly, our previous city council, before they left, passed an ordinance pledging city administration resources to ensure that we have the best proposal to give the MLB. Also, our new mayor has already shown his full support for the project, so I'm pretty confident. With everyone on board and all the development, happening downtown, more people moving in and wanting to visit, like, dudes, we're getting that team.
Yeah.
Have you shaken the magic 8 ball to see if that's actually going to happen?
Well, you guys, you know that I did because I let you know.
Have you shaken it again?
I'm afraid to because it already said that we were getting one. And if I shake it again and it says no, I'm going to be so mad at you, Giulia.
Let's stick with the yes.
Okay.
I believe it.
Oh, man. Well, I don't know, guys. What do you think?
I mean, I think all of this is like super exciting. I also think, in terms of like entertainment and like things to do, it's exciting to think about Jamie Dunphy, who's now on Portland City Council, who's been a huge advocate for, he was a board member of Music Portland, has been really vocal in the fight against like Live Nation. And he is now officially a city leader. So I think having voices like that at the helm of our city could be really exciting for people who like to go out and do cool stuff.
Totally. He will be having to deal with Live Nation, though, because that deal is also going through. But, it'd be nice to have another reason to go to the waterfront. I love the waterfront. I want the waterfront to be developed. So that part of me is, like, okay, well, we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we gave you some good. We gave you some bad. We gave you some maybe.
Just about as much as you could expect from us. Let's be real. It's about as good as we can do.
What more do you want?
Yeah, I'm curious what people at home listening, like, what your concerns are, or what you're excited about. Like, hit us up. I want to know, like, what are your thoughts for 2025, in Portland? I mean, of course, if you have other thoughts, that's fine. But mainly Portland is what we're asking about.
Primarily.
Primarily, yes. Hit us up at portland@citycast.fm. Well, Giulia, well, John, have a good weekend, everyone.
All right, thanks.
Thank you.
That's all for today here on CityCast Portland. Thank you so much for listening. Our executive producer is John Notarianni. Our producers this week were Giulia Fiaoni and Francisco Kilgore. Our Hey Portland newsletter editor is Rachel Monahan, and our host is me, Claudia Meza. Original music by Jenny Conley and Steven Drizos. Additional music by Epidemic Sound and All the Kimonos. We'll be back Monday morning with more from around the city. Until then, see you at Slim's.